In today's episode of the Wild Party Podcast, I chat with Lindsey McCoy, co-founder of Plaine Products, a revolutionary personal care brand that's tackling the global plastic crisis, one refillable bottle at a time. Lindsey shares her inspiring journey from nonprofit management to creating a B Corp certified company alongside her sister Allison. Together, they've built a brand focused on sustainability, vegan and cruelty-free products, and empowering their customers to make eco-conscious choices. We'll talk about the challenges that they faced, their innovative marketing strategies, and how they've turned their passion into a successful business. Plus, Lindsey opens up about the importance of community, collaboration, and staying adaptable in an ever-changing market. Stick around for a special coupon code to try Plaine Products for yourself. This is a clean conversation you won't want to miss. Welcome to the Wild Party Podcast, where we celebrate the visionaries behind vegan, ethical, and sustainable business. In each episode, we'll dive deep into their journeys, uncovering the why behind their mission-driven business. I'm your host, Stephanie Lahart. Tune in with me for passionate discussions about overcoming challenges, innovative marketing strategies, and the power of using business as a force for good. So whether you're an entrepreneur seeking guidance or a conscious consumer wanting to support impactful brands, join us as we explore the stories behind the businesses that are changing the world for the better. Let's get the party started. Welcome to the show, Lindsey. Oh boy, am I excited to talk to you about Plaine Products. Once again, I have said this on so many other shows, I found you on the PETA Business Network list, the PETA Shopping Guide, which is my favorite resource for like everything in the world these days.
Yeah, we are thrilled to be here. I'm so happy that you found us and reached out.
Yeah, and I have to say, so when I originally found you on the list and I clicked on your website, one of the first things I saw was that you made a statement that said, every piece of plastic that has ever been made still exists. And that hurt my heart because I know it's true. But I was like, I need to talk to this woman because she gets it and your sister gets it. And Plaine Products, when I went to the website, I was like, wow, you have a story. So I'm really excited to share that with everyone. Because you have quite a journey that has gone on in your entrepreneur journey. You actually came from nonprofit management to building this sustainable personal care brand, and you did it with your sister. I also have sisters, so I know all the dynamics of that. So let's just start back at the beginning of you have a career and you decide, you know what? I'm just going to set aside all financial security and start my own business.
Well, I mean, it even kind of starts before that. When I was growing up, way back in the 80s and 90s, if you wanted to do good in the world, you certainly didn't go into business.
Mm-mm.
You did something else. So I ended up in nonprofit management, actually not even environmental stuff. I was more interested in women and children's issues. And then my husband is from the Bahamas. So I got to go live in the Bahamas and I ended up running an environmental education nonprofit. Again, not because of my environmental experience, just because of my nonprofit experience. But while doing that, I got to go to these super remote, beautiful places with scientists and we would find plastic. Or I
Mm.
would do beach cleanups with kids and we would find plastic, piles of plastic, or I'd end up at a dump, and I would see all of this plastic. And so when I heard, which started coming out in around 2015, that there could be more plastic and fish in the ocean by 2050, I was like, oh, I can actually see it. Like we don't get to see it in the US. They kind
Yeah.
of just make things disappear, but in an island nation, you just see it in a whole different way. So I started, skipping the straw, carrying the reusable water bottle, but I was staring at these plastic bottles in my shower and I was like, there's got to be a way to not have to just keep, throwing. I knew exactly where those bottles were going to end up, especially in the Bahamas. We decided to move back to the States. And now you can do good in business. That's a new thing. So I was like, hey, I've done 20 years in nonprofits. I'm so burnt out on events and grant. I was like, maybe I can solve my own problem and help solve other people's problem at the same time. And so I did call my sister and I was like, hey, look, I want to try this. And she and I are very different people, which is why she is not on this podcast. Part of our division of labor is that I do the writing and talking, and she does the packaging and washing. So yeah, it was great to have her because I would have like launched way too soon. The products would not have been as good. And she will tell you that she's a perfectionist and it never would have been good enough. And she would still be thinking about it if it were up to her. So we make a good, together we make a good team.
Yeah, I get that you're a little bit like me where you get very excited with something you're passionate about. You're like, let's just do this. Let's do it all right now. So I think
Yes.
it's definitely a good balance to have somebody like your sister to be like, hey, why don't we actually, maybe do a business plan? Maybe do like, some kind of structure
Let's
for this. Because
let's
I
do
know
some
I could.
testing. Let's try more than one manufacturer. Let's work on these labels a little bit, not just, slap something on a bottle. Yes, all of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. So, with that said, then when you decided, we can do some good, what was the first step in, actually starting your business? Like, how did you, because if you go to your website, Plaine Products, you have a very large, variety of products, which is awesome. And at the core mission of that is sustainable, which we'll get into because I love what you did with the packaging. But how did you really decide on what were the first kind of products you were going to provide or you were going to look into?
So we started with just a shampoo, a conditioner, and a body wash in 1 cent. And again, I mean, I was really trying to test this notion of, and again, my age. Do you remember when Netflix used to be like you got a DVD in the mail and you watched it and then you sent it back and you got another one? I was like, why can't packaging be like that? Like, why can't I just use this product and send back the bottle and have them refill it? And so that was kind of the idea behind it. But it took us a long time to figure out how to get there. And then we also had to find somebody that would make products that we were aligned with, that would let us reuse bottles. And that took that took a long time too. So we were simultaneously kind of trying to figure out how are we going to do this. We couldn't afford to design packaging, so we had to find something off the shelf. And then we had to find somebody, I mean, neither one of us had a personal care background. So much learning on ingredients and what we did and didn't want. And yeah, I mean, it was just a lot of asking questions and emailing and calling and then saying, oh, you know what? Thank you, but I didn't ask you the right questions. Let me call you. Can you give me 5 more minutes and answer these questions for me? Yeah, a lot of learning and experimenting.
Yeah, when did your journey actually start? What year did you start this company?
I had the idea in 2015 and we launched in February 2017.
Okay. Okay, so we're looking at then like, almost a like 9-year journey at this point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mention that because I know a lot of people feel daunted when they decide, hey, I think I want to start my own business. And then they might go and look at a business like yours and think, oh, they've just, they have it so perfect. Like, how did it get so
Oh.
perfect? And we know it doesn't start perfect in the beginning. We
Oh,
start, like you said, with one product, one
and it's
idea.
never perfect. I mean, it's all a work in progress. I mean, I think we've changed the bottles 4 or 5 times. We're always changing, updating the website. We're still trying to figure out what our keywords and our SEO strategy is because reuse is such a new thing. I think we started like with this tagline, join the packaging revolution, and it turns out that nobody cares about packaging and that meant nothing to anyone. So it's all, you're always learning and trying. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because that's actually exactly what I help businesses do is the marketing, the strategy, and figuring out what the exact, tagline or message needs to be to really connect with the audience. So you and I should talk later. I could give you some insights on how that all works. But you're right. Sometimes when we start a business, again, we think of a word or a phrase that we think people are going to really resonate with. And then you say it to people and they just have a blank face. They're like, I don't know what any of those words mean, right? But I think we are all, as a society now, definitely in the US, getting more to a point where we understand, thrown away does not mean away, and
Yeah.
packaging has real cost. So, we get very excited with everything that is so easy now to be shipped to our doorstep. But really, what happens to all of those plastic products, right? When they're done. So that was one of the things that really attracted to me, to Plaine Products was like, oh, I could use these products and then reuse the actual packaging. Because for me, that's such a huge personal pain point to buy something, like a hand soap dispenser and then use, the product inside and throw it away. Cause I'm like,
I know.
oh, I know
I
that's
know.
not going away. And like you, I've traveled the world quite a bit and I've seen where this plastic ends up.
Yeah. No, and I mean, there is no away, right? I mean,
There's no way.
there is no there is no magical away where things just disappear.
Yeah.
Um,
So speaking
yeah,
of that, then let's talk about then how, okay, so you did start it on your own,
yeah.
and you were looking, just deciding at first, like how you're going to go about it, what kind of products, what's the packaging going to look like and everything. And I know that you chose aluminum bottles over materials like plastic or stainless steel. So let's talk about that. Like what happens, why did you choose the aluminum bottles? What makes them better?
Well, we actually started with stainless steel, and it turns out that not all stainless steel is stainless, especially when you do not have a lot of money. So our original prototype were these adorable mason jars, but then the seam rusted when we tested it with the product. So that was not going to work. So we looked at glass, but we were honestly worried about breakage in the shower. I have a son who can break anything. It's his superpower. So I did not want to mess around with glass in the shower. So aluminum seemed the best fit for what we were looking for. And, it's lightweight. When we do finish reusing them, it's easily recyclable. And we could afford them. We could find bottles that we could afford. So that is where we ended up.
Yeah, I love that with the aluminum packaging. I'm a big fan of that as well. I do see a lot of, especially in the boutique side, people are very into the glass, packaging and jars and all. But like you, I'm like, oh, this is way too much glass, even around my home where I don't have small children, but I do have a very large dog. And I'm always like, where is his tail going, right?
Oh, exactly.
So
Yeah.
sometimes the really artisanal, things look so pretty in glass, and you're like, that's not really usable in our lifestyles at this point.
Yes. I admire people for whom that is that is their reality, but it is certainly not my reality.
Yeah. So when we're talking about stuff like, actually deciding on your products and the packaging, how did you go about figuring out where you were going to find your sources and your suppliers to create these materials or create the actual products like your shampoos and your
So,
conditioners? Like who came up with that formulation? How did that all work?
so for the shampoo and for the personal care products, I mean, we had this brief fever dream that we were going to make them and then realized that that was insanity. Um, so we started looking around for personal care manufacturers and, we didn't want to have this super environmental sustainable packaging and then put a bunch of chemicals in it. So we were really looking for somebody that aligned with us as far as, again, having lived on an island, I wanted something that when it washed down the drain wouldn't cause any problems. And then was learning, oh, all of this mainstream stuff I've been putting on my body has a lot of chemicals that I really don't want on my body. So, I was talking to a lot of green beauty people, zero waste people, and learning about all of these ingredients. I would show them like, oh, we got this ingredient list from manufacturer. And they're like, oh, no, 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 no. And so it was a huge, huge learning curve experience for me of how many ingredients I'd been putting on myself that were unnecessary and not great. So we finally found a company that's, had all plant-based products. And then, we started talking a little bit about vegan and what that possibility is. And they were willing to work with us. We only had to change, I think, one or two, a silkworm ingredient to a bamboo silk. And then we were there. So we were like, great. That also just felt good. It felt like a clear message about who we are and what mattered to us, that the ingredients were safe and non-toxic and good for everybody, good for the whole planet. And then we had to talk them into letting us reuse our bottles. We went down and met with them and talked to their chemist. And it has just been an amazing working relationship with them for the last, as you said, almost 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was very excited when I did see, the mention of being vegan and cruelty free because I do live an entirely vegan lifestyle. And I'm always the one, I mean, I stand there and read labels like it's my job anymore. Because like you just mentioned with like the silkworms, there's certain things sometimes that are named other things in ingredient lists and you don't really know what they are. And you're like, well, this just looks like it's okay. And then you realize like, oh, that's where lanolin comes from, or that's what that is. Like people don't know. We don't know what any of
No,
this is. So I did appreciate that with your packaging. You say right up front, you're like, we are vegan and cruelty free. I mean, that's something that's very, not only important to me, but for all of my listeners out there. We have a very heavy, audience lean towards that because they're like, look, I don't want this stuff on me. I don't want it to be harmful to the environment. I certainly don't want it to be harmful to animals. So, you know,
Yes, and that just sort of aligned with where we were. I mean, the company was already Leaping Bunny certified, the manufacturer, and so we were like, okay, that just yeah. I mean, I think there are certain things out there that just let you know that you're on the right track because, as you said, I mean, there's so many different words for things and ways that you can hide behind stuff, especially in the personal care industry. And so I feel like, yeah, there are these markers of like, okay, they've taken this step. They didn't have to, but they got like that is a good sign, and that's part of why we went for a B Corp certification. Is I won as a new person in the business world. I kind of wanted a checklist of like what should I be doing, what should I be looking for, but I also wanted an easy way to sort of signal to people how seriously we were taking all of the things that we were doing and that we were holding ourselves to a standard.
yeah, absolutely. So you just said you're B Corp certified?
We are B Corp certified.
Wow, Leaping Bunny and B Corp certified. You're officially my favorite person in the world right now. I love that you know what, it seems like such a natural progression for you. And I really love that because I do know that sometimes, businesses will start and they didn't think of it initially. And then they're like, how do we change all that over? But it can be done. I actually talked to a business owner of a very large scale cosmetics company, and they didn't start out vegan and cruelty free and sustainable, and they switched their entire company. It took some work, but it's their name is Cella Beauty, and they did it. It can be done, but it's nice to start from the beginning, right? Instead of having
I certainly feel lucky that we started where we started because I now understand now that I'm in it. Once you've committed to some packaging and you've got those changes have cascading effects. We decided we were losing a lot of our original bottles had kind of the labels painted on, and we realized that we were losing a lot of perfectly good bottles because that was chipping off. And we're like, oh, what if we made them colored? What if we printed them like soda cans? And we're like, oh, we could do that with our most popular ones. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh God, we did it with this. We got to make the rest matte. Like, we just, again, not being in the personal care world, we didn't really realize what we were committing to.
yeah.
So, these small changes that you think, oh, this will be, yeah, we should do this. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, we've got it. And now we've got to change all the pictures. And now we've got to change that. Yeah, we got to, so it is harder once you're down the road to make those switches. And as you said, they certainly can be done, but I feel very lucky that we started where we started. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is funny, like we said in the very beginning of this show, there is something to be said for really doing some strategic planning from the get-go. So you don't have to make these changes, as you move along. And maybe we'll give your sister a little credit for this, Allison, for this.
Right.
Even though she can't be here with us today. But let me ask you then. So, for those that are listening right now to the podcast and are not that familiar with Plaine Products, do you want to describe to them a little bit about what your product line is and what makes it so different?
Yes, love to. So we do personal care, shampoo, conditioner, body wash, body lotion, hand wash, styling products. We have a styling gel, a sea salt spray, a purple shampoo. And the whole goal is to provide safe, vegan, aloe-based products. They're salon quality and not to have any waste. So you order a product, it comes with a pump. And then when you're running low, you order a refill, or you can subscribe and we'll send it automatically. And that refill bottle comes with a return label. So whenever you're done with the first one, you switch the pump over and then you put the empty bottle in that box the refill came in, put the return label on the outside, and it comes back to us for free. And then we wash them, sterilize them, store them, and send them back to be refilled and then go back out into the world.
Oh, that's great. So you can actually reuse those exact bottles. You don't have to send them to some other recycling,
No,
unit or something.
we reuse them as many times as we can. So,
Wow.
yes, yes.
That is
And
very cool.
yeah, and the beauty, I mean, when we reuse them, we just run them through a dishwasher and a dryer. So it's not anywhere near the energy of melting something down and making it into another bottle. They just get washed and dried. Yeah, so we reuse them, as I said, I think we've got some bottles on their third or fourth go round. And we'll just keep reusing them. When they get too dented, we recycle them, or if, something gets messed up on the label, we'll recycle them. But other than that, they just keep going.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about that circular economy and recycling in particular, because I did just watch this really great Netflix documentary called Buy Now, which is have you seen it yet about the overconsumerism? And
Yeah.
oh God, I hurts my heart so much because I feel like like some of the people they interviewed in there a little responsible because I've been in marketing, my entire career. Never specifically product based, but I'm like, yeah, we maybe promoted a lot of things that people didn't need or didn't need to buy another one so quickly. So, that's another goal for me with this podcast. I'm like, hey, we can all live a different life, including me. But what I did learn on that was like, just how recycling was not at the level we thought it was, where we really, have been led to believe, hey, you throw that plastic bottle away, it's recycled, it gets used as something else. And that's not really the case. So, I liked it when I saw your packaging. It's like, no, I'm going to use that exact bottle. Like, we don't have to send it off. So that made a
Yeah,
lot
I
of sense
mean,
to me.
I think that the intent there is for recycling, and unfortunately, plastic is just complicated. I mean, it's get used in a lot of different ways. There's so many different types. We don't understand the difference. You throw it all in one bin, and they do their best to sort it out. But yeah, I mean, unfortunately, a lot of plastic doesn't get recycled, and when it does get recycled, it usually only can be recycled once because they have to kind of melt it down, and it is downgraded, and they do turn into something else, which is great. But most of that's ultimately going to end up in a landfill anyway at the end of that. So I think that plastic is an incredible material. We just got a little overexcited about it and started using it for everything. And it makes a ton of sense for cars or, furniture, things that are going to last for years. But for something that you're going to use for a small amount of time and then be done with it, it just isn't a great resource match.
Yeah, exactly. And also with, just going back to the recycling real quickly, when we throw things away, if it has little pieces, like a little cap or something that's plastic, those things kind of get lost in the shuffle. And that's what we're really seeing that's ending up in the oceans, specifically these tiny little micro pieces of stuff, that are just
Well, and
maybe.
plastic, unfortunately, as it is exposed to sun and water, it becomes brittle and breaks into bits. And it's not biodegradable. It doesn't just break down into the environment the way something more natural would. So you just end up with these tiny bits that are everywhere
Yeah,
now.
they're
I mean,
everywhere, including inside of us, which is also horrifying to think. So
including
let me just go back to your whole entrepreneur story a little bit. When you did decide to launch this company and you got your sister on board, what were your first steps as far as, getting the financing or the cash flow to even start this? Because everything has a cost, we know that. So how were you initially able to launch this idea and get products and start actually getting it to market? What did that look like for you?
We started as small as possible. So we, again, did a ton of research and ended up through a distributor. We're like, we called some manufacturers and they're like, great, where should we send the truckload? And we're like, no truckloads, no truckloads, just a few boxes. And we finally found somebody that let us order 3,000 bottles. We talked to a manufacturer into letting us only order 1,000 of each of the original products. And that's where we started. And as we made money, we bought more. But we did not have a huge budget. And it was the two of us. And it was, we were packing in my sister's garage, and a friend made our website. And I was doing all the social media and outwork and net reach, and she was packing and washing and sending. And, we just kept going like that until we got big enough to bring on some help.
Yeah, so how did you initially get it to your audience? How did people find out about you? Because you do have a really beautiful website. I loved it. I was all through it. But how did people first start finding out about Plaine Products?
Well, I think I mentioned earlier that I was just asking so many people questions. I mean, just tons of networking and questions and trying to learn. And this was actually before influencing was actually a thing. So we were incredibly lucky. The people that I was talking to, I was like, hey, would you try this? Would you just let us know what you think? Check out the packaging, help us with the words. And so we had a lot of sort of early influencer types that helped, that talked about it, that shared our mission, that told people what we were trying to do. And it was really word of mouth early on. We were kind of the first ones to do this, still one of the few doing it. And so I think that that mission gives us a unique story to tell and helps us stand out a little bit. And happily, it's something that people are willing to talk about on our behalf, to tell a friend, to share. I mean, I think because you are participating and that you're sending the bottle back, I think people feel some ownership and feel a part of it. I mean, we get like notes from people, people film it and coming back. And so it's really a community. We are so dependent on our customers, and we listen to their feedback. We take their suggestions on what new products to add, scents, and they are, help us out and help spread the word.
Yeah. So speaking of your customers, then, was there any feedback that you might have gotten in the beginning where you really had to change an idea that you had? 'Cause you're like, oh, people don't really like this or they don't get it.
Well, as I mentioned, the early marketing was terrible. It was terrible. And we're still learning, kind of how to explain it and how to talk about it. I think mostly what we've relied on people is what products to add, where are there gaps in the market. I mean, as you mentioned, we did not want to contribute to that sort of over consumerism. If there were already solutions out there, we didn't want to just keep adding to things that people had already solved. I mean, there's a lot of great circular cleaning products out there, so we haven't gone that way. We went into styling products because we were told that there weren't a lot of options in that area. So that's really what we've leaned into in the last year or two, is trying to find niches where there aren't a lot of sustainable options, and then fill those niches, as opposed to like yet another whatever. And the other thing that, again, to the consumerism piece, people are like, oh, you should just put a duck on it and call it a baby shampoo and sell that. People will buy that. I'm like, well, it is already baby safe. It's everybody safe. And they're like, yeah, but if you put a duck on it, you can sell twice as many. And I was like, well, kind of don't think that's the point. Like, that's not the point. Like, we want to sell somebody something that they can put on their baby, but they can also put it on themselves. Like, to me, as I've gotten into this, I'm like, well, yes, babies have this nice soft skin, but shouldn't everybody be putting on things that are safe for them? Like, it shouldn't just be babies that have safe products. We should all have safe products.
Right, you're exactly right. And going back to, marketing strategies, that is something that, many companies do. They're like, okay, we'll have this for babies, we'll have this for pets. And you're just saying, look, we create a product that'll be good for everyone. And that's really helpful too. And I do love that you do have a full line, because I'm one of those people that I like to find a brand that fulfills my needs of being vegan, cruelty-free, sustainable, and be like, great, they do hair, they do, pet, they do cleaning products. So I would be that person. I would just buy everything in one, because then I don't have to think about it. I don't have to go, well, what's this one like? So I understand where you're hesitant to be like, I don't want to create more products, but I'm just letting you know, I'm the kind of girl that wants everything in one shop. Like, I'd be that, like, yeah, I'll just buy it all, because then I don't have to think about it. So
No, but I will let you know that we do have, it's funny. People ask about their pet, and again, learning our hair and body wash. They're like, oh, this is the perfect pH for most pet skin. And I was like,
yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing, but I will share it with the world and let people know that they can also use that. So, we really try to have this workhorse product mentality. How many different things can our products do? You can use the conditioner and the body wash as shaving gels. It works for your pets. It works for your baby. We have a beauty oil that does like 10 different things. So we do our best to help people get the most for their money. We're like, don't add more product, add more water when you're showering. That's how you make it lather. Here's a bunch of different stuff that you can do with the product, which is probably not classic business 101, but is just sort of our ethos around trying to have less stuff on the planet.
Yeah, and that actually really helps with the marketing and the community outreach too, is like actually educating people on, how to use the product properly, because there are a lot of things that even myself that I'd used, I'm like, oh, I wasn't even using that correctly, or I didn't really know how to use it. And I do find myself very many times having to go back to websites to be like, wait, did they tell me to put this on in the AM or the PM, or how does this work? So
I am the worst beauty
yeah.
company owner. I mean, my sister actually openly like was watching me use the face wash, and she was like, "Why aren't you adding water to that?" And I was like, "What are you talking?" Totally busted me using our own products wrong. Well into owning the company. So yes, I try not to. I let the others on the team offer advice on all those things, but we're all learning.
Okay, well, you did mention that social media is one of your main marketing channels, which I absolutely love. So let's talk about a little bit about your strategy there, because there is some education that needs to happen as far as like what does it mean to be able to return a bottle or product or things. So really, how are you using social media to get the message out about your business, and what have you seen as the greatest returns? I know you just mentioned actually working with influencers and real customers. So what does that look like for you guys?
Um, in a few different ways. I mean, we certainly do work with customers to demonstrate the fact that our products can work for a lot of different hair types. So, a lot of different ethnicities, hair types, straight, curly, thin, thick. We're always looking for people to demonstrate how it works for them, how they use it. I have obviously fine straight hair, so I don't use a lot of conditioner. My sister, strangely enough, has curlier, coarser hair. She barely uses any shampoo. So, we talk about the fact that just because we both have the same products in our showers, we don't use them in the same way. The other thing that we have found is being really strategic about our partnerships with influencers. So we've learned that if there's great alignment, it can be a really successful partnership. I mean, if it's people who are interested in vegan products, less waste, less toxic,
Mhm.
then they're so excited about the partnership. But if it just happens to be a straight up beauty influencer or, something else, people are like, they just the message is lost. There has to be some alignment there for that to really work because our products are just more than a picture. I mean, it does take a little bit of explanation. And if you are thinking about your waste or you're thinking about your ingredients or, some of your values, then you're like, oh, this is so cool. But if that's not top of mind, then, that's when people are like, well, why would you do that?
Yeah.
Why would you send the bottle back? That sounds like a lot of work, so we've learned to sort of look for people who are aligned with at least some of our values, and those make for much more successful social partnerships. And even if somebody has 3 million followers, like it doesn't matter if there's no alignment there.
Yeah, and would you say social media is one of your, I guess, your strongest marketing channels, or how else are you able to
Well,
reach
I mean,
people
it's
and let people
definitely our
know?
strongest marketing channel. I mean, we have a great email list, and we do use that. But as far as discovery, yeah, it definitely. I mean, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, all are strong channels for us.
Yeah, and I think I read also that you've also done some cross marketing efforts with other eco-friendly brands. Is
We
that true?
have. Yes, it is. I strongly believe that, the point is to make the pie bigger, that we shouldn't be you know, fighting over the pie. We need to make it bigger. And so I have great relationships with, some shampoo bar companies. I'm like, oh, well, if this doesn't work for your hair, try one of these. And they do the same thing. And I don't see them as my competitors. I see them as we're all trying to help move people away from waste and just thoughtless consumerism to more thoughtful products that are better for the body, better for the planet. And I'm happy if anybody's choosing any products from this side of the street. And we're excited to introduce people to other products that they can try. So we do a ton of cross marketing, one, because I think it's helpful. I mean, as you said, it's hard to wade through everything. So if I find a company that we love and I love what they're doing, I'm excited to share it with other people. And I'm like, oh, our people would love your products, and I bet your people would love our products. Let's work together. It's a service. But I also really tend to like working with other sustainable companies, and often they're women founded and they are smart and interesting and solving problems, and it's just a lot of fun to work with them.
Yeah, that's true. It's definitely because you have a sister, you know this. When you get a bunch of women in the room, there's just a lot more collaboration, I feel like, and people just kind of want to lift each other up. I've always been very attracted to all female groups for that reason. I find it very supportive. And also, I find it just a little bit more approachable. So it doesn't surprise me that in this space that I do meet many, many entrepreneurs like yourself that are women.
Yeah, and there seems to be a lot less ego. I mean,
Yeah.
there's nobody fighting for like, who's saving the planet the most or, crazy boasting, which sometimes seem to happen with with some other brands. So it's just more about like, how can we get this done? How can we lift each other up? How can we, all spread the word and help just raise awareness in general?
Yeah. So, speaking of then your product in general, like we did mention before, you do encourage people to use the product and then also send the packaging back to get a refill, to order that way. So you have a subscription model, right?
Yeah.
So tell me then, based on, just your business model in general, how has the subscription model really helped your business? And what do you see maybe in the long term of like success for Plaine Products as far as
Well,
subscriptions?
certainly the subscriptions are great in just providing some stability to our revenue and cash flow, so we know a little bit of what we can count on every month. They have been invaluable for that. Also, just, there's the marketing cost of acquiring those customers, but then they stay. And that is a lovely thing. We can afford to spend a little bit more to acquire them when we have a high probability that they're going to be with us for years, which a lot of people are. So both of those are two important pieces. And yeah, I mean, and obviously the reason we keep growing our inventory is not just to solve problems, but also to have more people like you who just keep adding products to their list. So yeah, our goal is to be the product on people's bathroom counters, to make sure that everybody can get everything they need from us at some point.
Yeah, and your packaging is so beautiful. And obviously, it didn't look like that in the very beginning when you were just starting out, but clearly you've worked with a professional, I guess, branding company at this point, right? Because it's just gorgeous.
No, actually, we still are doing stuff in-house, but we have come a long way. Yes. My sister, yes, and our web team have helped us. And yeah, no, it's been fun and we're still learning, but thank you. I will
Wow.
go along and they will be thrilled. So,
Okay, first of all, so I've been in marketing my entire career, so it's well over 20 years now. And if you guys are watching the YouTube video version, you would have just seen my total shock face when she said that. Because seriously, Lindsay, I thought, oh, they must have hired like a branding company because it is so gorgeous and seamless and just makes me feel good all over. It's just the cleanness of the lines and everything. So the fact that you guys did that all by yourselves, I want everyone listening out there to know you can do this yourselves. You don't have to rely on maybe outsourcing to a company that you're thinking, I can't afford that. So, wow, you guys did a great job. It is gorgeous. Your website is beautiful. It's easy to navigate. Everyone needs to go look at this website as soon as we are
but
done.
I mean, I will just say to your earlier point, though, this is, 7, 8 years down the line. There have been many iterations, as you pointed out, along the way. I mean, the first bottle didn't say anything about returning or reusing. And we were like, oh, that might be helpful. So we have learned so many things. So I do encourage people who are looking at starting something, put it out there and then be open to feedback and change. Sorry, because we wouldn't have gotten where we were if we hadn't started. And, it does continue to get better. And you don't start at a perfect place. So
That's so true. We do not start at perfection. Everything is a work in progress. So, with that said, would you care to share with us maybe one or two of the top challenges that you have faced as an entrepreneur building this company?
oh, I mean, there were so many. I feel like did I mention the rusting bottles the first when we were getting started? So there have been a lot. I mean, not beating myself up when I realized that we did make mistakes and that, we didn't put reuse and refill on the original bottles, that we needed to revamp things, that we needed to change, that maybe the labels, we shouldn't have gone with the paint and the first. I mean, I think a lot of that is giving yourself some grace to, it wasn't a mistake. You did the best with the information you had at the time. And it's important to learn, but I think some people get caught up on not wanting to be wrong or not, sunk costs. We've come so far, we got to keep going. And so just being willing to say, okay, now we're going to do this because now we know that it's an option, and going down that line can be scary, but it's important. And, I think the other thing is it's still a job. I mean, it is great to be doing good in the world, but yeah, there are still days that are frustrating and hard and stressful. But to me, certainly those days are easier knowing that I can feel good about what we're putting out in the world. And we get a nice note from a customer or, an email, and that always that helps too.
Definitely. When I get replies and notes from clients that have worked with me for marketing and social media, let me tell you, that just makes everything worth it. I'm like, oh my God, I really helped this, even if it's just one person. And I think that feels so good. So with that said, would you like to share maybe one of like your big successes or something where you really felt like you guys were on the right path?
Yeah, well, I would say we have a bottle counter on our site. So we consider every bottle that we sell one plastic bottle that's not out in the world or sitting in a landfill or in an ocean. And we just passed 700,000 bottles that we've sold since we started. So that was that was huge in our 7th year. So that is something that we are very proud of. And it's something when I have those days, I'm like, okay, we are making a difference. There is change in the world, and that helps.
Yeah, I think definitely. I love that bottle counter. That is such a good visual so people can see. And also, like you can go and on those hard days and look and be like, yes, making a difference. So,
Yeah.
with that said, why don't you tell everyone listening where they can find your products, your website, how they can find you. And also, I know you and I had talked about a little coupon code for our audience earlier. So if you want to share that, I will also put it on the blog article afterwards.
Yes. So we are Plaine with an E. My sister and I actually share the maiden name Della Plaine. So we went with Plaine Products with an E, both kind of as an homage to our dad, who had a lot of small businesses when we were growing up, but also, that not every solution to every problem has to be crazy technology or absolute, like we're just washing bottles. We're just doing the work. So it's just a solution, plain and simple. So it's Plaine Products, and you can find us on all the social channels, and that is also the website address. And if you use the Wild Party podcast coupon, we will take 20% off your order to thank you for giving us a try.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. I mean, that is incentive enough for me to start shopping over there more because, like I said, I found you just doing my own research. And when I did, I couldn't wait to share you with my audience and with the world because I'm like, these ladies are doing exactly what I want to see more of.
You
For
asked
anyone,
how we market. I mean, we're so
me.
appreciative to people like you for taking the time to talk to us and help us spread the word. Because as you know, small businesses, I mean, it's been great that there have been so many since the pandemic, but it's crowded out there now. And there are a lot of small businesses, and everybody's trying to get attention and trying to get the word out. So we so appreciate opportunities like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do appreciate, I just to let everyone know that I got in touch with Lindsey through Instagram. I reached out to her directly and you responded to me, which I love because I still, I do look at, companies like yours and I'm like, oh, they're so big now. Maybe they wouldn't want to talk to me. You responded immediately. You were like, I'd love to be on the show. So you kind of made me feel happy. Like you validated me a little with my podcast. So thank you very much. I try to do my part in the world as well. And it's always nice to be recognized by other people that you also admire.
Yes. Well, I mean, we couldn't do it without people like you. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I truly appreciate it. For everyone listening out there or watching the video, just go check out the show notes, look at the blog article. We do have the website linked as well as the coupon code, the Wild Party Podcast, to get your 20% off. And Lindsey, thank you so much for sharing your story. I appreciate you. I appreciate Plaine Products. And I appreciate the fact that I can get my bottle refilled and not throw it away.
Well, thank you so much. This has been so much fun.
Thanks for listening to the Wild Party Podcast. If you're an entrepreneur or professional who would like to be on this podcast, please visit boomtownmarketing.com and click on podcast. We believe that every business has the potential to change the world for good, and we want to support our community to help make the world more ethical, compassionate, and sustainable for all future generations to come. And if you're looking to build your business, no matter what level you're at now, request your free marketing consultation at boomtownmarketing.com and click Get Started.